go, boys and girls. I'm still in this goddamn room because my parents still have corona and I can't get out of it. But it is what it is. Today we're gonna watch why chocolate is more disgusting to make than you think it is. I have chocolate right here. Very nice.
Whoa, very nice.
Chocolate makes me happy. But without further ado, let's see why chocolate is more disgusting to make than you expect. So let's go.
Alright, today let's go from cocoa pod to chocolate on today's super intensive video. I'm not gonna lie, although this was a lot of fun, it was also a lot of hard work. In total, the process of going from cocoa
What the fuck is that? Is that spurt?
bean to chocolate bar took me about 2 months. Not because it takes that long to make, but because I messed up several times.
What the fuck is
as well
that?
as having to deal with some camera issues along the way that didn't allow me to film. However, in my folly, I learned a lot, and I hope to pass
Ooh,
what I
looks
learned
good.
so you don't make the same mistakes
Actually
that
looks
I did.
good.
Chocolate making in general is a very
Ugh! Is that a... Wait a minute. Is this the same thing? Still tastes good, not gonna lie. Let's continue.
complicated and intricate process, but today I'm going to be showing you my very simplistic method of making chocolate. I'm going to kind of cut corners and really reduce a lot of the complexity. However, I have to say, even with my plebeian attempt at chocolate, it still turned out really good.
Are those beans? What is that?
And it had a lot of flavor. It was actually very delicious. So let's go ahead and begin.
Okay.
So chocolate making has more or less 4 steps. We have fermentation,
Okay.
kind of drying, roasting step, we have a grinding step, and then lastly we have kind of a heating and tempering and molding
I see.
step. So let's go through this one by one. All right, step 1, let's start with our actual cocoa pods. Now these are them. They grow in deep tropical regions and they originate from Mesoamerica. However, I sourced mine from a fruit company that specializes in this exotic
But this is how they look like. Look like a devil fruit from One Piece.
fruit
If you
and
watched
grows
One Piece
them
before.
in Miami, Florida. Now for those keeping track at home,
Wait, what did you say? It grows in Miami, Florida?
specializes in this exotic fruit and grows them in Miami, Florida.
Oh,
now, for
really?
those
I
keeping
didn't know
track
that.
At home, I'm pretty sure these
That's
are the
epic.
Trinitario
I thought they only grew in
cultivars of
Africa
cocoa.
or something.
However, for this video, any kind of cocoa will work, and you can typically find them online, although it's not super cheap. So the first thing we want to do
Why would you make your own? Never mind. Maybe it's more healthy to make your own. I don't know.
is split open these pods very carefully using a knife. We can cut it such that we can expose the interior of the cocoa pod.
Ooh, this is so disgusting. For fuck's sakes! It looks like a mutant snail or something.
Now, I know inside it looks a little crazy. As you can see, the cocoa pod is surrounded by a shell, and inside are the actual cocoa beans. Now, if we scoop the beans out, you can see
Oh my god, please don't. No, God, no. No.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Now this stuff is actually edible and is actually very delicious. It has almost a citrusy flavor, not at all what I expected.
Really? You
now
can
what
eat
we're
that?
actually after is not this fruity pulp, but we're actually after the interior of these seeds.
Oh,
now,
I
if
see.
you cut one in half, you can see this kind of purpley bit. In
It
fact,
looks like
you
a
can
brain.
eat this. It is a little bitter and it has a very faint taste of chocolate. But through the process of fermentation, drying, and roasting, we're going to reinforce.
Okay, I have a question. Sorry for stopping the video a million times. I wonder who the fuck took this and went through the process of getting this, putting the brown thing out, drying it, afterwards like melting it, whatever, and then making chocolate out of it. Who the fuck made that up? Like, who had the time back in the days? By the way, props for that guy or that girl that did that. Amazing. We have chocolate because of that. But Jesus Christ.
The flavors of the chocolate so that in the end we end up with this really familiar chocolate flavor. Now I'm going to collect the beans from 4 pods, just scooping out the interiors and collecting into a bowl. With all the beans scooped out, it's time to begin the process of fermentation. Now the fermentation stage is extremely important in the process
Who
of making
thought
chocolate.
about that, dude?
This is the stage
By
where the
looking at
majority
this.
of the chocolate flavors and fruitiness are actually developed. Now I have to admit, the process of fermentation of these beans is pretty nuanced and complicated. Expert chocolatiers have written a lot of stuff about how different stages of fermentation are really important in regards of how much oxygen oxygen exposure there is, and development of acetic acid and alcohol, which all play a role in how the chocolate ends up being flavored in the end. Now, despite this channel's name, all this is beyond my pay grade, so I took a simplistic route for fermentation, and honestly, the chocolate I ended up with was pretty good. So let's just follow my caveman attempt. So from our bowl of
caveman attempt, dude. It looks pretty professional to me. I don't know, maybe
we can go ahead and place them into a very well cleaned
Ooh.
container. Preferably
you take out the air like that, right?
Monitor what's going on inside. I had a
Is this when you take out the air?
Fermentation, so I use this to weigh down the beans, although I'm not really entirely sure if this was necessary. Now, the name of the game is we're going to let this ferment for about a week. But after about 24 hours, depending on how warm it is outside, you should start to see the effects of fermentation.
That's so
the beans will start
disgusting.
to change color, and they'll also expel liquid. Traditionally, these are fermented in giant wooden crate where there's drainage, and the expelled liquid can drain away from the beans. But for this small amount of cocoa beans, it didn't really seem to make a huge difference. About once every day or so, I would like to open up the container, stir it up with a clean spoon, and specifically I did this on days 1, 3, and 4 of fermentation. On day 4 of fermentation, I opened up the top of the container and then covered it with a clean towel. Okay. And we're gonna let this
That's what my mom does.
Open.
This is what my mom does with everything. She thinks if she put a clean towel over it, something will happen. I don't know why my mom does this. It's a Slavic thing. I don't know. Don't ask.
For 2 or 3 more days, stirring every day until it looks like this. Allowing the fermented beans to be exposed to the air really helps kind of bring it to that final step. So after the full 7 days, we're actually ready to move on to the next step. Now, not only does this stuff look funky, it also smells pretty funky and a little bit alcoholic.
What is funky?
Don't worry though, that's totally normal. However, I do have to say, under the alcoholic funkiness, it will have an ever so slightly.
Did he put alcohol in it? I didn't see that.
Never
mind. Maybe it's
it
the
almost
thing that
smells
you put
like
on
a
the
chocolate liquor or something like that. All right, so now the next step is to dry these beans out completely.
It's not.
Traditionally,
it's
this
still
is done on the
It still looks like a hard poop that you get on a Sunday because you ate too much chocolate, but it's not as bad as it when it was white. Not gonna lie.
But the weather outside where I filmed this is.
But I can already
rainy,
see
so
this
really
is going to
wasn't an
become
option for me.
chocolate.
So I placed
anyway.
my beans into this combo dehydrator oven thing that I have,
Ooh,
and let it
it's
dehydrate for
fashionable.
24 hours. After the 24 hours, we can pull them out. And if
Oh,
you peel
now
the
it's
shell
like-
off the beans, you'll see that there's actually a cocoa bean inside. And this is
Oh my
actually a chocolate.
God,
Now we
it
aren't
is.
fully there yet because we'll still need to roast it, but you can start to see that the color's almost there. And if you smell it, it will still smell a little bit funky, but it will really start to kind of have that chocolatey smell. Now at this
Oh,
point, we're
nice,
actually
dude.
ready to.
How much can you sell that one bean for? I'm sorry for stopping the video all the time, but I have so many questions.
Roast the beans. And there's a bunch of different methods for roasting, but again, we're just going to go through the simplistic.
How many beans do you
Now, for
need
this
for a
step,
chocolate?
we're going to do a 2-stage roast.
probably
Now, the first
these
thing we're going to do
many.
is we're going to roast the beans in an oven
This
at about
many.
325 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 degrees Celsius for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
This is going to just kind of start the roast for the beans. After the 5 minutes, turn the temperature down to 275 Fahrenheit or 135 degrees Celsius for about 20 minutes. And I was really surprised how much in this relatively short roasting time really changed the beans. This roast really made my whole house smell wonderfully warm and chocolatey. And this is the
Nah, it's chocolate house, dude.
stage where it goes from kind of being funky to full-on chocolatey. So once we're done roasting, we can pull it out of the oven
I like
and
this
let it cool
channel. He's so
completely.
calm.
I let them sit actually for about 2 hours on the cutting board, and just to really make sure that they're completely cooled down. Now, once they are cool, we can go ahead and peel the shells off, exposing the cocoa nibs inside. And it might help a little bit to crack them first, as I'm doing here.
Oh, I
and
see, I
I'm
see.
not gonna lie, this process was a little time consuming. It's
Yeah,
very,
I
but
can
it's,
see
not, it's
that.
honestly not that bad. In
You
total,
did
it
so
took
bad.
about 10 minutes to peel all of them.
Oh,
now
only 10 minutes? I thought it would took like 1 hour or something.
some small fragments of shell still
He's
ended up
fast.
in my cocoa nibs, and you could either use a hairdryer to blow them away, or I just simply pick them out by eye, just kind of leaning on the side of not collecting as much chocolate, but making sure that there weren't any pieces of shell left over in our container.
Oh, I see,
all
I
right,
see, I
so once we have all our nibs ready, we are ready to move on to the next step, which is to grind them up and turn it into chocolate. But before you do, it's not a bad idea.
Wait, what?
Ready to move on to the next step, which
Wait, what's he gonna melt? This and the... which one is gonna
just to
melt?
grind
I
them
don't
up and
understand.
turn it into chocolate. But before you do, it's not a bad
Oh,
idea
no.
to weigh the total amount of cocoa nibs you've collected, and that'll help
I guess
kind
he's
of
gonna
inform
melt that,
how much
right?
stuff to add later when we're making the chocolate bars. All right, so to start off with grinding, I used a mortar and pestle to break up the cocoa
Oh,
nibs.
yeah, he's
I was
gonna
able to
melt
get a
that.
pretty rough grind at first using this method. Now, to be frank, if you want to be able to get the level
I always wonder, why can't you just take that in a big ass mixer? Like, is this like just a fancy way to do it? Like with this like stone shit like they did in the 2000 BC? Or is this like really effective even nowadays? I feel like we have better methods to grind than he's doing right here. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
of smoothness of a commercial chocolate bar, you need a special piece of equipment known
I
as
feel
a
like
crunch.
people just want to
And
be
these will run
fancy
you about
when they do it in this way.
$300. So, you know, that's,
I
that's
don't
kind of
know.
out of the budget for my video here.
Ooh,
So instead, I experimented with grinding these cocoa nibs.
that's
with stuff I
grinded
already
as
have.
fuck,
This
bro.
was an experiment, so feel free to mix and match how I
Ooh,
did
let's look
this
at that cocoa.
to whatever
Dude,
works
it's-
best
I'm so stupid. It is cocoa. I'm so stupid. I'm so fucking stupid.
for you. Now, I poured the crushed cocoa nibs into a blender and let
Oh,
this go.
why
And
wouldn't
I
you do
also
that
took
in the
this
first
opportunity
place?
to
Wouldn't
add
the
a little
blender be
sugar.
destroyed?
This will help balance
The
the
blades?
bitterness of the chocolate, and how much you add is completely up to you. I'm more of a fan of the darker side of chocolate, so I only added about 20 grams of sugar to the chocolate, which gave me about an 85% dark chocolate. But if you want to add more, or also add milk powder to cut the bitterness down, feel free to do that. So using the blender did produce a much finer grind. However, it was constantly getting stuck in the corners and getting kind of really annoying to deal with. So I decided I got it somewhat fine. I would try to finish it in the mortar
Oh, that
pestle
makes
again. Back
sense,
in the mortar
actually. It gets,
pestle,
like,
after about 10 minutes of vigorous
stuck
work,
in the
I ended up
grinder
with
and it's
as
harder to
fine as I
remove.
was able to get it, which to be frank wasn't too fine. Now I also know it looks like there's some big chunks here, but those are actually just clumps of fine powder. That got
Yeah, I
compact
see
in
that.
the
I see
mortar
that. This
pestle.
happens
All
to
right,
everybody.
so the cocoa has some natural oil in each of the beans. This is the stuff that is known as cocoa butter. Now, depending on how well we were able to grind this down, the cocoa butter will actually express itself into the powder and will kind of form a chocolatey liquid. However, as you can see, this isn't very oily and it's actually very dry. So we'll need to bolster this cocoa with some cocoa butter. So to my 120 grams of cocoa nibs, I added initially about 20 grams of cocoa butter, but I actually added about 10
Why do you need cocoa butter? Can't you just put regular butter in?
more grams later, so for a total of 30 grams of cocoa butter. The cocoa butter will give us that chocolate bar texture, but first we need to melt it. So I popped this into the microwave for about 2 minutes, and you really want to keep a close eye on this. It might be different for your microwave. You really want this just to melt. You don't want it to overheat. Once it's melted,
Okay. Makes
it
sense.
should look like this, and just go ahead and add it into the chocolate and stir it up. Now we're in the stage of melting, tempering, and molding the chocolate. Place the cocoa over a
That's a
pot of
huge
boiling
fucking
water to
pan,
make a
dude.
double boiler. This will begin to melt everything together. But however, even after heating, my chocolate still looked a little dry, so this is when I added that 10 more grams of cocoa butter I mentioned earlier. And this really seemed to do the trick. We can see here now that we have a texture of something that almost looks like wet brownie mix, and that's actually what we're going after. Now, while
Now it
heating
looks
the
like
chocolate,
chocolate,
we really want to
of
keep an
course.
eye on the temperature. Now
He
that the
didn't.
chocolate
He didn't put too much sugar in it. As long as I didn't see any sugar at all. Maybe you don't need it. And
is melted, we need to temper the chocolate. Now this is a process
I
where
will
we
put some also on the temperature in the description of this
basically
video. Okay.
align the crystals that form inside of the chocolate to form a uniform solid hard bar. If we don't do this step, the chocolate crystals will kind of have a random orientation and we'll end up with something mushy and won't really snap when you break the chocolate bar. Now there's a million different ways to do tempering. Some involve using a marble slab and some metal spatulas. The easiest way is using something called beta crystals, which are just crystals of cocoa butter. But for
Meth crystal.
me,
Okay.
the most practical way of doing this and just kind of the easiest way is just to use a nice piece of dark chocolate from a chocolate bar. And this
You
is
put
what's
in
known as,
chocolate in the chocolate to make chocolate. Genius. This
sea
man is a
tempering.
genius.
And this
Pure
will provide a
genius.
sea crystal for the chocolate to kind of form around and help align the chocolate. So to do this, let the chocolate cool down, and once it reaches about 91 degrees Fahrenheit or 31 degrees Celsius, add a piece of dark chocolate from a nice chocolate bar into the melted cocoa and just stir it until it's fully melted. All right, now while it's still molten, go ahead and pour this into a mold. I'm using a silicone chocolate
that's
mold
a
I got
thin
online,
ass
and that seemed to
chocolate,
work pretty
dude.
well. Carefully pour the chocolate
That's
in,
thin as
and
fuck.
it doesn't hurt to give it the old tappa to coax out any
How much
air
can you
bubbles.
sell
Once
this
the
for?
molds
Like
are filled, it's just a
homemade
matter of letting this thing
chocolito?
cool down completely. For me, I left this in the fridge overnight. Now the next morning I returned for the moment of truth. I think it's beautiful. I couldn't have been any happier with these chocolate bars. At least
Whoa! Look how shiny it
how they
is.
look. Now how did it taste? Well, as I said before, it was a little grainy, but that doesn't really bother me.
I would make
The
my own
taste, however,
logo on
was
it, like
fantastic. It really had that nice,
black.
complicated, fruity,
Never
chocolatey
mind.
flavor you get from a high-end chocolate bar. And I have to say, it was
BBC. I would call it big black chocolate.
a really fun process, and even though I had some issues, it was extremely interesting and gratifying to be able to make my own chocolate bar all by myself. I really hope that you actually, if you have the time and energy and want, that you actually try this process
Ooh,
yourself.
dude,
If
look
you get
how
stuck anywhere
amazing
and
it
have your own
looks.
questions,
You
I'm
wrapped
by
it
no
in
means
gold
an expert
paper
on the
like
topic. I can
professionals
share my
do.
experiences with you. Feel free to email me at my website.
Taste it, dude.
flavorlab
Taste
at
it.
flavorlab.xyz.
Come on, taste
so
it, man.
if you enjoyed this video, please consider sharing
Taste it, dude.
Sometimes these longer
I want to
videos
see you
don't get a
taste
lot
it,
of
man.
views, and it's always difficult. All right, well, that's it for this week. If you have something you want me to make for you, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Bye.
Oh, bro. I wonder how they make white chocolate though. My favorite chocolate is white chocolate. I'm one of those weird guys that like peanuts on pizza, and I like white chocolate. I know, don't judge me. I really like this video. It taught me a lot. It looks crazy disgusting. It looked like an alien when you first started, but initially and finally, delicious, amazing chocolate. If you like this video, click the like button. If you dislike it, well, you do what you do, but always subscribe for more awesome content. Bye.